Okay, this question comes from Ephraim the Dream. Greetings, Foundryman! Exclamation point. Microsoft released 4 generations of Xbox consoles, and in terms of sales, the only true success was the Xbox 360. Even Sony's worst, PlayStation 3, outsold Microsoft's best. Are we looking back at the Xbox brand through rose-tinted glasses, considering 3 out of 4 generations were fairly awful? Do you guys believe 3 out of their 4 consoles were fairly awful? Cheers! Exclamation point. Well, John, I think the question at the end there is probably we don't think they were fairly awful.
Absolutely not. That is so. This is why I don't like looking at sales
Right.
alone as like judging something, right? First of all, the original Xbox, I would say, was genuinely an amazing little machine. Yeah, it may not have been a huge sales success compared to PlayStation 2, but Microsoft was trying everything, and there was so much interesting software on the Xbox. And not only so, like you got just like cool Sega was doing stuff. Microsoft was experimenting. You had Japanese, American, European developers, everybody trying their hand at different Xbox things. Um, and so much of it was really, really cool and unusual, which I loved. But then in addition, of course, it was usually the best place for multi-platform games at the time with, either best image quality, performance, or both. And it's just and it gave us so many just incredible experiences at the time that I still look back on. Like, I'm not a big online gamer these days, but man, those early days of Xbox Live were some of my favorites. Like, man, obviously Splinter Cell, the second Splinter Cell, the Spies versus Mercs stuff. I don't know if any of you guys spent time with that, but that was just like this magical moment in online play. It's like where you had two different mechanics, two different styles of play fighting against each other. The microphone, it really felt like unbelievable at the time. And of course, Halo dominated my days in college. 4 Xboxes networked together. That was another thing. The Xbox was all about local networking, and then eventually Xbox Live as well. Like there was just so much going on there. I love the original Xbox. And then Xbox 360, which as he says was a big success. I felt that this vision continued and was strengthened, and that original 360 team, like they really got it. And it was the one that actually got the most support from Japan as well. Like we got like the creator of Final Fantasy making 2 amazing RPGs for that system, right? With Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey, which are just incredibly good games. And there's just so much, like Cave went big on there. There's so many shooters on there, lots of weird random Japanese games, but also like the stuff coming out, everywhere around the world. I mean, it was a really interesting, cool system. It was beautifully designed. It was very capable. The hardware was super smart and well done. Microsoft was still playing in all the different pools with so many different genres. Like their first party output was amazing during this period. The 360 only really faltered. Well, one, obviously the Red Ring stuff, not great, but that, I don't take that away from the software lineup. The software was still incredible. It's just the hardware had a major flaw, and ultimately so did PS3 with the yellow light of death situation. But I think things just took a turn, frankly, with Kinect, and I think it comes down to them trying to chase Nintendo's success with the Wii and fundamentally misunderstanding it and like going down a route that was not the correct route for the system. That plus like deciding that, oh, we don't need first party studios that much anymore. We can get by with third
Right.
parties. Those decisions, man, that had such a horrible impact on everything that they built. Like all the founders and the creators that built Xbox up through the midway of Xbox 360, I feel like there was just this turn where that entire vision was compromised and they lost everything that made classic Xbox just so darn good. Because obviously that fed into Xbox One, which gave off to that horrible E3 showing, and Don Matrick just putting his foot in his mouth over and over again, and all the negativity around Xbox really stems down to that little period there. I feel for a while where it was just like the Kinect, the Xbox One, all this stuff was not good for Microsoft. But I feel like Xbox One actually kind of crawled back for a while. Like they started to turn the opinions around. More good games were happening. The Xbox One X was a really nice piece of kit. And I feel like up through 2020, Xbox was like trending in the right way, And then it just Yeah, Series X, despite being an amazing piece of hardware, like the whole everything fell apart, and we ended up where we're at now. And I don't want to lay the blame fully at their feet, but I felt like the goal was to get Halo Infinite out at launch for Xbox Series X. They wanted Halo Infinite to reboot that series, give Xbox a fresh face. This was going to be like the next chapter for everything. And then when that fell apart and didn't happen right, like it just that was like the canary in the coal mine for this system. So, but I think overall, I mean, they've made good hardware overall, outside of maybe Xbox One, and most of their time in the game market, I think, has been pretty awesome. It's really just the early Xbox One, late 360 era, and then like recent times where things were not good, I would say.
Oliver?
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I think Xbox 360 was a real high point. That was such an extraordinary machine for the time. Hardware design was incredible. The games were amazing, especially the early 360 games. So many great titles in there. Xbox One also had some excellent stuff. I feel like some solid games, not as many as PS4 perhaps, but still quite strong. And then with the series, rather with the One X, you had the best console for multiplats towards the end of that generation by a good margin. With the Scorpio hardware, it was quite good. I really feel like Microsoft's decline was maybe twofold. The first thing was just a lack of first-party software, a comparative lack, not maybe an absolute lack, but a comparative lack. Because I remember going towards the end of the 360 PS3 generation, I had started out that generation playing a lot more on 360. But over the course of that generation, towards the end of it, it just seemed like Sony really ratcheted up their first party output. It seemed like it was coming in at a really consistent quality level. You had like Uncharted, Infamous, The Last of Us, MotorStorm, lots of great games in those franchises, and they were delivering and delivering and delivering. Killzone as well, tons of great games. And Xbox didn't have the same volume. And then, of course, the second issue is the Kinect issue, and both those issues kind of led to the Xbox One generation maybe not being as good as it could have been. And then, of course, Series is kind of like it's still great in many respects, but certainly some compromises in there in the mix as well. But I would certainly I would disagree with the idea that you're dealing with like 3 generations of failure. I would not agree with that sentiment at all. I think that
No.
you have 3 generations of maybe not great sales success, but I think you have 4 generations of great hardware, 4 generations of lots of great games. Series is tailing off a little bit at the moment, at present, but certainly all those consoles have something to commend them. All the hardware designs were quite great, I think, for the time, or at least maybe not the original Xbox One, but certainly Scorpio hardware in that generation. And I actually have very positive feelings about Microsoft hardware. I have very positive feelings about Microsoft consoles, even though they've had some recent issues. So I don't think that a lack of sales success should be mistaken for a failure to produce a good product. I think they're great products.
Also, let's keep in mind that you look at like Nintendo, right? Like the Wii U, that was a failure, right?
Yeah.
That's less than 14 million units sold. That's worse than anything Xbox has put out. The GameCube as well. I love the GameCube, but it sold worse than the original Xbox, right? So that didn't stop Nintendo from continuing on and making amazing stuff.
Yeah.
You have ups and downs. It's really just somehow Sony has managed to like keep those sales really high outside of, say,
PS
PlayStation
Vita.
Vita.
Yeah. Or
That's like
PSVR
pretty
as
much
well.
the only one.
That's an accessory, I suppose.
That's an accessory. That's like talking about Pocket Station or something.
My only thoughts on this is, I don't know. I think Xbox began with a great deal of hunger from Microsoft to really make an impact on the gaming market, and then they basically moved up to 11 with Xbox 360. I mean, they were pushing the very latest process nodes, very latest technology on all fronts for Xbox 360. They were doing things like getting GTA 4 to appear on Xbox at the same time as PlayStation. Which they hadn't been successful on in the past. The PlayStation was firmly established as the place to play GTA. That kind of changed. They had a year advantage over PlayStation for whatever reason. I think there were problems with PlayStation, but ultimately they pushed and pushed and pushed, and it was always about great games, right? And expanding the platform in that respect, and just being excited about games. And you're right, John, that did kind of sort of taper back with Kinect, which in retrospect kind of cool, but also kind of cynical. I remember being in the whole Kinect presentation at Gamescom, and was trying to play Burnout Paradise on with Kinect. It's kind of like they were kind of suggesting that the Kinect could actually replace the controller.
That's a horrible idea. It's not comfortable. It's not fun. Like, as an accessory to some things, there could be some interest there, but beyond that, no freaking way. And honestly, like, it wasn't that much different than what Sony did with the iToy on PlayStation 2, if we're honest. Right? Like, it's more technically advanced, but it's that's the level of kind of interactivity we got. It's like a fun party trick. But Sony didn't try to sell the iToy as like, this is where PlayStation's going.
And unfortunately, you're quite right. It
as.
set the stage for that. And I think telemetry, at the tail end of the Xbox 360 generation, Microsoft were looking at telemetry that was saying, hey, actually, a lot of people are using their Xbox 360s to watch Netflix. Maybe we should become this multimedia console instead. And that, obviously, the rest is history after that initial reveal there. So that's kind of when if you stop focusing on games, you've got problems. And I think, PlayStation, to their credit, they realized with PlayStation 3 that things had to change. They brought in Mark Cerny. Vita obviously wasn't a sales success, but the concept of the machine was just rock solid. Bring that concept over to a console. And, basically we've had, huge amounts of success for Sony based on simply focusing on hardware that enables great games and delivering great games. There could have been a slip up this generation for Sony because of the failed games as a service initiative. But ultimately, Microsoft didn't capitalize on the kind of diminished amount of exclusives that Sony had. And in fact, what can you say? PlayStation continues to do extremely well, Microsoft less so. But certainly there's a lot of really fantastic memories with Xbox, and hopefully they can come back at some point.